All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Open Live Q&A. My name is Miss McLogan, and this is week number 145 of live streams. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, where I do want to go ahead and answer questions. So if you do have any math question, feel free just to go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I have the link above me. I also have it in the description, as well as I believe I pinned it in the chat. So if you do have any math questions, I know we're kind of finishing off this end of 2022. So maybe some tests or exams are coming up. And as always, I will be here every Sunday night, 9 p.m. to answer your questions. And then furthermore, I'd also like to, kind of any kind of like general questions, feel free to go ahead and put them into the chat. And I'll try to do my best to answer as many questions as I possibly can. But math questions, I love to have at brianmclogan.com/Q&A. That just allows me to go ahead and review your question. I think I got 2 that I pulled up from here. I got many more, but it was just like, a lot of the stuff, if it's not something that I can always immediately go ahead and cover or like really quickly like refresh my mind, or if I don't feel like my explanation is going to be 100% on point, then I unfortunately can't cover it. And then also students send me tons of word problems. Don't send me word problems. They're just not great for live streams. They take quite a bit to go through, and I don't want to be spending hours and hours on the live streams. But anyways, I did want to thank you guys for joining on. I see Tanya are on. Good to have you on. And James, grades were invented in 1871. Gabe, good to have you on. Good to see you. For Zach, thank you for having me home. You are very welcome. And hey, Addison, good to have you on. We have Pori is on as well, and Shayna and Eva. Thank you. So John Lawrence, read the formula. Well, I mean, that's just gonna be some formula based on there. So A sub 1 is going to be your first term, S of n is going to be the sum, n is going to be the number of terms, and r is going to be the rate. So I believe that's going to be for a geometric sequence, if I remember all of that correctly. And Sebastian, hey, Sujian, I just want to say thank you. You're really helpful for indescribable ways. Thank you so much. Well, you are very, very welcome. So happy to have you on. So one of the things I wanted to create this live stream for is I want to talk to you guys about something that you might think of like, hey, that's kind of like a stupid title. Like, of course, I know how to make people like me, but yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it's as obvious that that as many students really kind of take to heart, because we obviously want to be likable, right? In real life, you always want people to like you, right? For just as like human interactions. But I think what I want to talk to you guys about tonight is definitely some ways that you guys can kind of use your likeness to your advantage. And this is something that I've kind of found just studying humans and obviously being a teacher and as a student that I think can really benefit you. And it's some little things that some people are not always taught. Maybe they don't have, the same experience or the parents that kind of help them with their routine. So I think there's definitely some things that you guys can do, some small things that maybe you don't think about makes a difference in your grade or how somebody perceives who you are, but really can make a difference for you, and maybe even make a difference in your grade. Like I said, it's not like it's an ethical way of cheating, but it is just a way to kind of putting yourself in, kind of the best position that you can be in to kind of be in a, where is it? I had it on there. I thought I had it down there. Oh, okay. Yeah. Kind of put yourself in that, best position to, I think, make the most out of, people giving you the benefit of the doubt, right? Because as grades are coming down, you want your teacher to like you. You want them to be thinking about you in a favorable position. And again, I'm not trying to imply that I want you to kind of, again, cheat the system, or if you just do these things, like you can be bad at math and this is going to bypass that. No, not at all. However, there are some things that, from my perspective as a teacher, that that if you can make yourself likable, you can give yourself the benefit of the doubt. And if that could come down to maybe a grade, or if that can come down with like teacher putting in some extra effort into helping you get what you want, then that can make all the difference, right? And I think we all agree, like, about luck, right? People can be lucky in certain situations, but there's also a lot of things that people do that other people don't recognize that also make a really big difference. And sometimes we might say that somebody is lucky or they always get the right break, but we don't really understand or don't see some of those little things that they might know that they're doing, or they might know, or they might have no idea what they're doing. That's actually putting them in a position to be more successful. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. So I think one of the first things that, and again, this is applicable to math because obviously that's what I'm talking about, sure, your math class, but honestly, it could be applicable to really anything in real life. But the main thing I want you to talk about, like if one, I think one of the most impactful ways that you can make your teacher kind of, like you or have that favorite profession is to show that you care. It's a very, very simple process, but you know, your teachers are putting in a lot of time of effort into their class, into grading, right? That's, Sunday nights grading, doing lesson plans, like showing up every single day, putting your time. And even if you don't think your teacher is putting in the work, if they're lazy or whatever else, like, again, you don't know everything that they're doing outside of class or what their, work or home life is like. And a lot of times there is a ton of work that I was putting in, staying after school to like 5:30, sometimes even later, coming in early, putting in the work, like grading papers over the weekend, like driving long trips. My wife would always drive so I could grade papers. I mean, that was just like the way that things were always done. And so it's a lot of work. And so when you see students, inside your class that you can see are reciprocating, like they're putting in the work. It's not like you pass back a test and they like get mad and throw it in the dumpster, like, um, showing that like they don't care, right? Like that gives you a bad feeling. Like that doesn't feel like you put in all this time to like create the quiz, right? To create the test, to grade the test, right? You want your students to be successful, right? And we understand it like sucks to like fail or do bad on a test or a quiz, but we want you to be successful. And I think that's the most important thing that I can like relay for you guys to understand about teachers. Like most teachers, I know not every teacher, but most teachers want you to be successful, right? They want to reciprocate your effort back onto them. So if they can see that you care, they are going to do everything possible to make sure that they're going to put more extra effort into you achieving what you want to get, right? And I can just tell you this from my own personal, experience. Like when I see students putting in all that work, like that really like feeds me even more as a teacher to like work even harder to help that student because I know that they are putting in the time and the effort, right? And then compare that to the student that is, not doing their homework, right? Or when they do their homework, it's like really sloppy, right? And it's just like, oh, I just did this really quickly. Or it's like, you can definitely tell it's just been copied, done really quickly and turned in for a grade. It's like, here's the stuff, right? And where I might have spent like hours like creating the test, grading or creating the homework and grading it and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden you can see they just copied, they didn't even care to try to do the assignment. Like internally, those are little things that kind of stay with you, right? And you don't want to be stuck with like that that kind of label, right, as a teacher, because sometimes it does take a long time for that to be undone. Like, and again, this is something that can be consciously thought of or it can be unconsciously thought of, right? But I think it's really important to to have some pride in like your work, right? And this is one thing I talk to my students all the time, like the difference between when you're taking a test and or you're showing your work. Like, just imagine like I tell my students a lot of times because it would be like I'd be dead tired. I had school the next day. I'd do my live stream, and sometimes I'd grade papers after the live stream. And so it's like, all right, it's 11 o'clock at night. I got school tomorrow. I'm already exhausted, right? But I'm like, I have to get these grades in. And so here I am late at night. I'm grading 2 papers, and then here's this one student that is like I know from their homework they just do their homework as quickly as possible. Like there's just like very little effort. It's very sloppy. Like no work is shown. You can just tell like they are just not putting in the effort into getting it. And then they give me their test, and like their work is all sloppy. Everything's written all over the place. Like it's just it doesn't seem like there's any care into the work, right? Comparatively to like another student that has like, you can definitely tell like when their homework, like their work is shown, you can definitely tell that they spent time putting effort into, doing their work. Their homework is always turned in, and then they get their test and everything is very neatly shown, and organized and like able to see the answers. And again, like they could both have the correct, exact right answers, right? But you can definitely see like there's an impact. There is a unconscious like thought behavior behind like that student that has everything, you can see that they put in their efforts, they put in time and care, and they cared for the work they're turning to you. Now, again, like as a teacher, you actually have to be aware of this bias, right? You just don't want to always, you know, assume that students that do neat work, right, are actually doing the work and students that do sloppy work. And it's not just about neat or sloppy, but I think it really is like, putting in that effort to see that you care about your work, right? You care about your learning. You're putting in your time. You're showing up to class. You're not skipping class. You're not sleeping during class, right? What teacher is going to give you the benefit of the doubt when they just know you're sleeping, right? I mean, it's like, and again, as a teacher, you got to be very careful, right? Just because a student is maybe not as engaged, like you got to still grade them as how they are. But again, teachers are humans too, right? And those little things play into teachers, correctly or incorrectly, how that's been, right? And I can definitely say, like, I've had to like definitely step back during grade time and be like, okay, wait a minute, I might be like, you know, having my bias, play into this. Like, should I maybe relook at these, the grading policy that I might have had? Like, is the student actually being graded more harshly or more softly? And you obviously want to make sure as objective as possible, right? But again, like outside of grades, outside of teaching, like that's something like if you have your first job or anything like that, like that's exactly how you want to be performing. Or even if you own your own business, right? And now your reputation is on the line, like make sure people know that you care, right? And put in the extra time and extra effort over put in that time. That people do not want to see that you lazy and that you do not care, right? If they want to do business with you, if they want to loan you money, if they want to hire you, that is a extremely important thing to do. The next thing that I want you to look into is taking ownership of your learning. And this is one thing that's, when I'm teaching students, I know there's going to be students that are going to struggle. I know there's going to be students that are going to fail, right? And as I mentioned, like one of the one of the greatest joys I think I have from teaching is when students do kind of like struggle, throughout the year, because it's not so much they're struggling like, hey, I'm like this bad, mean teacher, but it's like, no, I want to see students be able to overcome this, right? And I think any coach or any person, that follows this kind of journey of, people seeing success, like I remember hearing this quote from, I was a coach or something like this, is like, they get more excited for other people's success than like their own. And I think it's completely 100% true. Like I want to see students like overcome. I want to see them overcome their struggles. I want to see them being successful. And that is something that is way more gets way more like joy than like anything that, me setting a goal and me achieving it or me overcoming a success. And I think one of those things comes from is like taking ownership of your grade. Like when you fail, right, or you don't do well on a test or quiz, the easiest thing to do, probably the most satisfying, is to rip it up, throw it away, and like not think about it, right? To avoid it, right? Don't tell anybody about it, or just like, oh, that was a bad quiz, and maybe take the easy road of like, oh, everybody, I didn't even study for it. So of course I didn't do good at it, or I'm just not a good math student. Right. Or I've always been bad at math. So, whatever, forget this grade, forget this class, the easy road out. No, no, no. Take control of your learning, take control of that grade, accept it for what it is and say, all right, I have to wear this grade and I have to do better. Right. And I mean, I had this all the time. Like I would challenge my students. It's like, all right, you didn't get the grade you wanted, because like my grades are pretty evenly distributed. We usually had like less than 15, 10% A's, B's and C's and D's. Like I'm actually probably even more heavily weighted in like the C's and D's. Like it was, a pretty difficult class, especially when I was teaching like pre-calculus and algebra 2. And so I challenged students. I'm like, all right, hey, it's okay if you didn't get a good grade, like you're not used to it, like come in and see me. Let's go over it. Right. And I would stay after school every single day and be like, come in and see me. Take control of your learning. And some students did, right? And a lot of students didn't. And again, like it's not like you had to come with me. Like you could tell when students were going to do tutoring, right? Or if they're finding help, whatever means they were, right? And you can definitely study the students that did not take control and this kind of like gave up, right? When the going got tough, they gave up. And you could see those other students that when the going got when the going got tough, they definitely, dug their heels in the ground and be like, they put in that extra effort. And again, this kind of goes back to what I was originally saying, like teachers want to reciprocate your work when they see that you are invested in doing well in the class, you are investing on improving your grade on learning, they want to help you out, right? And if you're coming in to see me, like I'm going to, let's say a lot of times I'd have students that would come in right after school. And, if it was, a lot of times it'd be like, all right, I'll stay after school for like an hour. Right. And, usually nobody stay after. So I just do my stuff. But then student would come in, maybe it's like their first time. Right. And they're like, hey, Mr. McLogan, I didn't do too well. I want to go over my tests and my quizzes. I'm like, cool. Awesome. I love it. And like, so maybe I'd stay after for like an hour and a half or 2 hours after. Like I would do whatever I could to make sure that I could help them out. Right. Because I could see like and again, this is just unconsciously, I wanted to reciprocate my attention for their effort into taking control of their learning. Right. And it wasn't like, and of course, obviously never like stayed 2 hours every single time somebody stayed after, but it was like, I think that's just like one of those unconscious things that I want you to, think about. Like when you go kind of like above and beyond, like in your job or, whatever may be the case, like people want to reciprocate that. People want to see that, they're like, hey, they take attention, or that gets attention. Right. And, I think that's a really good trait for you to have. And again, it's not saying like you always have to go above and beyond. I think maybe another like famous word that I can leave with you is like, always leave something better than the way you found it. Right. And that's kind of like a little bit kind of like to take control of your learning, like, accept it, move on and improve. Right. And you just got to keep on improving, each and every day. And I think if that's something you can, take on, like you're going to see the benefits from your teacher, from your boss, from like another company that you're working with. Like they're going to respect you for that. Right. And that was one thing I talked about with this video, like, liking you or respecting, like they're going to respect you when you take control. Like there's going to be issues, there's going to be failures, there's going to be problems, but people are going to respect you when you take control of that. And they're going to respect you when they can see that you are, going above and beyond for that. All right. And the last kind of thing that I want you to talk about, which is a very easy one, it has really nothing to do with math or school, but it's just being kind. And I think this is like the easiest one that people can do and that we so much overlook, because I think a lot of times it's just very easy, especially, nowadays with, um, your phones and being online, like people are just so used to not having as much conversations face to face that sometimes we say things and do things that we don't really think about, like how they might impact or how other people will perceive them and take about them. And the thing is, like teachers know, like they like the longer you're a teacher, the better you understand students' personalities, the better you understand when students are do not do not take kindly to jokes and everything else. And like, I always like to think like I always knew which students I could like kind of joke around or what jokes I could tell like to some students and not others. Cause you get to get used to students' kind of personalities. And that's really like a thin line to really kind of walk as a teacher, which was not really something you should, you really shouldn't be saying any jokes, with students, because again, you never know what students are going through at home, right? Or how they walked into your class that day. So you always got to be like aware of that. And I've definitely bit my tongue a couple times on where I was assuming that students were in a certain mood that they were, and they were not. Um, and yeah, I was like, oh man, I wish I never would have said anything. Right. But my point that I want to say is like, teachers know when students are when are nice to other students. They know who's those students are nice. They know when they can see when students are, when you're helping other students inside the class, with like they're learning, or, if someone gets a pencil, like, are you teasing somebody or are you giving them a pencil? Right. And again, like this should have nothing to do with your grade. Absolutely nothing. Like you can just be a bad person or you could be a really nice person, but like if you still understand the math, like you should still earn the grade for understanding the math. Right. So I'm not saying just be nice to or suck up, right, or brown noser and get a good grade, but like again, like these are little things that like people want to do business with people that they like that are nice. Right. People want to hire people that are nice, or nice to other people. Like people want to give good grades or like give them the benefit of the doubt on a grade, like when they're nice people, when they're good to other people. Right. So my main thing that I just want to say is like, don't use this as like a way to get by, but like use this as something as like, this is the way that you should, lead your life. And again, it should start at math class, right? Or any other class and like continue for the rest of your life. So just one of those little things because that I want you to always kind of keep in your mind, like, be careful how you are interacting with people, like how you interact with people, what things you say, what things you do, because people see that, people watch that, and again, like, it might not feel like anything comes from it, from initially, but those are things that kind of play into not your integrity, but like your um, what was the name of the thing, but like your not your honor, but it's like that plays into your who you are, right? And it's very difficult to change when somebody sees that you are that bully in class, or that you're very mean to other people. Like, that's hard to erase, right? So I think it's just really, really important to just be kind, just be a nice person. And you know what, you'll see a benefit of how people interact with you and how people want to again work with you, sit with you, and do things for you, right? And again, like, again, as a teacher, you have to take off this hat of like, oh, I'm only going to help students that I like, you're right, or that are likable. No, no, no. You can't do that as a teacher, right? So I don't want you to feel like, oh, just be nice, or that's the way teachers should be, because like that's not the role of the teacher. The teacher is there to help every single student, even the ones that they don't like, right? But I can definitely say, like, I feel like also I put out an extra effort unconsciously, or sometimes maybe consciously. I'm not even sure of like an exact scenario of like the students that were nice, that were likable, right? It's like, or maybe put it to this way, like, there'd be a student that I remember, like college recommendation letters, something like that. Like, if there's a student that was like very nice, very likable, and like very helpful in my class, that was doing all these kind of things, I remember there were times like, hey, can I have a college application? I'm like, sure. And then I'd like forget about it, right? And I'm like, oh crap, I got to go and do it. So like, I would make sure that I do that, at nighttime, to be able to like write that college app. Whereas, like maybe the student, if they're just like, I don't know, always mean or whatever else. So I was like, you know what, I'll just come back to like next time I see them, or like it would just kind of be on the back burner. It wasn't something urgent, for me. And I'd definitely still write obviously if it was somebody that I felt was worthy of an application letter, then I'd still write it. But again, like that'd be something like I've turned down students, I don't think really just for being kind or not being kind, but I mean, that's definitely a way that you could also, lose some of those recommendations as well. So, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. But I think I think if you guys can just follow these three things, which is, showing people that you care, putting into work, right? Going above and beyond, taking ownership of your learning, taking ownership of your work, and then also just being kind. I think you're going to put yourself above and beyond other students, or other workers, or other businesses, whatever you plan on doing, right? And it's going to serve you well. And again, when people then eventually say like, oh, wow, you're so lucky, or, oh, wow, like you're catching all the good breaks and, everything else, like, yeah, luck plays into things, but also I think you're putting yourself in the best position possible to get lucky. So hopefully that can help you guys out. And whew, that was quite a bit, but hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Teaching is blind. Thank you, Tyler. You're the goat. Everyone loves you. Well, thank you so much, Tyler. I appreciate that. Math is fun, but school forced me to have deadlines. Yep, I agree. And try to make it feel as more of a chore than a fun pastime. Then return ruins me. Yes, I totally agree. I wish there was a better answer for that. Spartan says, hey, if I did well in math last year, grade 9, and now I'm not doing as great currently, grade 10, is it because I'm not following the material or just not working hard enough? It, it it's tough. I have no idea. To be honest with you, I'd talk with your teacher, maybe talk with last year's teacher. Look at kind of stuff. Maybe there's some things you did really well, right? But maybe you just still didn't like understand some of the material, right, as well as you thought you did. Or it could be like maybe there's a disconnect with, you're just maybe not used to your new teacher, like how they're teaching, how they're grading, assessing, like things can be difficult in that course, in that way. So I don't think there's one size fit all, like, answer that I can give you that's going to benefit on that. So, but yeah, I think just speaking with this year's teacher and as well as last year's teacher to kind of get like an idea of where you're at from there, I think would, kind of maybe shed some light on what you should be doing. I had algebra 2 last week. Algebra 2, I'm assuming test or quiz last week, and there was a confusion question on it. All right. If you have any math questions, go ahead and please go ahead and submit the math questions. I'm not sure how many I'm going to get to tonight, but if you have any math questions, go to brianmccloudway.com/Q&A. That is the easiest way for me to be able to answer those questions. So therefore, I can put it on my whiteboard and therefore address it that way. Any general tips for AP Calc AB? Did I upload? I think I did. Henry, if you go and look at, I have a recent upload. It's like math tips or become a better math teacher. And then I talk about like 5 tips that you can use for AP Calculus or really just any math class. And that'd probably be my best advice for you on there for like, that. And I think what I did talk about for AP Calculus AB was like practicing, it's like obviously you got to learn the math, but you can learn the math like any way you really want to. But like the main thing obviously for AP Calc is like passing the Calc exam, right? Getting credit. So that's going to come into doing like a lot of test prep for the AP Calculus exam. So that would just be a general tip. Once you start learning some of the material, right, start practicing the test questions. And so therefore you kind of get a good use of like how the questions are asked, how to, show your work and all that kind of stuff. So therefore you can do well. Like you can learn the material in many, many different ways. There's many avenues from there. But I think one of the big things is going to be making sure you can perform on the test. Any tips on remembering certain ways to remember solutions, rules, and factors? I'm not sure what you mean kind of by factors, but so far my day has been good. Thank you. But maybe if you wanted to elaborate what you mean on factoring, like, are you talking about like factoring? Um, yeah. So if you want to let me know on that, that'd be greatly appreciated. No matter how much I study, I always tend to still get mediocre marks despite being confident in my ability to finish an answer correctly. What would you recommend to stop the cycle? It's a really tough one because, I mean, obviously there's many different like tips and tricks that you can do to like stop the cycle, right? Or like to get better. But I think also I think there's also some things that you have to understand. Like, I think some of it just might be time. Yeah, right. You just might not be ready at this moment too. And there's like an actually question. I'm not sure if you're the same one that like, um, here, tired. If you submitted it, but it's like the same thing. It's it's like I tell students all the time that hey, I got like D's in pre-calculus when I was a senior, and then like I'm teaching pre-calculus to, like these sophomores, and they're like freaking out if they don't understand things. I'm like, dude, you might just like it might not have been a time for you. Like when I took pre-calculus not even the next, the next year in college, like I aced it. Like it was easy. Like I got it like I got straight A's in pre-calculus in college, right? Where I was getting D's in high school. And it's not like I made this huge fundamental shift, right? I mean, I did like I learned how to study and I had to take college algebra again, but it's like not taking just because I took college algebra, that wasn't the reason why I um I was able to get an A in pre-calculus. I think one of the main reasons was I approached pre-calculus differently in college than I did in high school. Right? High school I didn't really care. But more importantly though, I think like I had like mentally I was just more mature, mentally mature and capable to understand the material. And I think for a lot of students, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, always be getting things or comparing ourselves to how other students are going through the material or doing well. And like, I, um, I, I don't know. I mean, I think if you're understanding the material, right? But mediocre marks, I don't know what that means. Um, if it's not something that is acceptable for your, what you're trying to achieve, maybe you just need to slow down a little bit and then give yourself maybe like a little bit of time and then get back at it. Obviously, you can, you know, work harder, right? Or study more, get another tutor. I just, I don't know. In my gut reading that is just like, you might be pushing yourself a little bit too fast. And maybe if you just like step back a little bit, maybe reduce a little bit. And, I mean, I still have my math degree and I didn't take calculus till I was a sophomore in college. Right. And students are freaking out if they don't take calculus in high school. Like, it's okay. Take your time, slow down. There's a lot more than, a lot more to life and to learning than one class or, one mark. So that's just what my gut's telling me from on there. There could be some other things that maybe you just need to work a little harder, maybe get some tutoring, maybe some extra help. That could be the case as well. Yeah, I think so too. And here, that's a great point. And I think the problem is, that's I love this. What time is this on? Yeah, 39, 49. I think one of the main reasons why, yeah, I think one of the main reasons why students do hate math is because of word problems. And I think here's the thing, like the problem is like everybody wants to relate math to like real world. Everything has to be, how am I going to use this in real life? How am I going to use this in real life? Well, there's so much we learn that we don't use in real life, right? But somehow math is like, it has to relate to real world, right? And unfortunately, like, yes, we all say, oh, math is everywhere, right? Math is, but unfortunately, a lot of the math that is everywhere or that can be seen or like applied is pretty advanced stuff, right? It's not just your most basic equations and basic stuff. But yeah, like everything is built off of math, right? But unfortunately, like we can't, everything we're learning is much more, at least in the younger grades, is like a build up, right? To be able to understand that more complex stuff. And however, we've created this idea that like everything needs to be applicable to real life. So what do? We create more word problems that like make up these random ludicrous problems that somehow students are supposed to be like motivated to learn. And yeah, I mean, I was the same way. Like I was never motivated. I hate word problems. I mean, one, it's just like they just kind of seem like overly confusing for no reason, right? Now, obviously, there's some good things being able to like break down a problem and solve it. Like that's actually good, for reasoning. But I hate like the trying to like relate it to real life. Like I never really enjoyed any much of that. And yeah, I think that gave a lot of students like a bad taste in their mouth because it's just these unrealistic problems that, we're just solving. It just seems like we're just solving to solve, right? But like what's the application? Whereas in reality, it's really not so much of like, I mean, yes, there's some basic real world problems that you can like use and understand, but like, yeah, most of it is like to give a stronger foundation. So therefore you have a better understanding to solve more complex problems that actually are like more applicable in real life, right? Like stuff that we actually do, or that like it is important to understand. Um, so yeah, I think that's a great comment. So I'm currently struggling with pre-calculus. What would you recommend in terms of studying? My teacher quizzes every week. Awesome. I would go over your quizzes every single week. Every single time you get a quiz, like whatever you get wrong in your quiz, like redo it. Go over it. Go over it with your teacher. Meet with your teacher. Go with your tutor. Make sure you're studying that quiz. Redo the quiz again, like 2 days later, right? And go over the quiz and like get the answers, right? And then take it again. And maybe take your quiz like 2 or 3 times, right? Like stay on top of that stuff. I'm not like that might not help you like on the next current test, but it's like, if you fail or do poorly, whatever, like keep on redoing those quizzes. Like that's going to be beneficial to you. And I mean, the best thing I would ask you right at this point is just like go and ask your teacher, like speak to your teacher, like see how they can help you out, Uh, sorry about that. Hey, Evan, good to have you on. Bishan, how often per week and how long per session would you recommend studying if you use your time wisely in class? I mean, it all depends on the course and, for sure. But, I always still like, I prefer like the more often you can study, the better. And usually I would even tell students like, I mean, again, if you're doing fairly well in your class, uh, I would look into anywhere from like 30 minutes to 45 minutes every day, be doing some kind of math. So even if you do your work done, right? Sometimes like I would have math, like I would have to spend hours doing my homework, right? And that was just for homework. So again, but let's just pretend like you're getting most of your stuff is not taking you forever. Let's just say 30 to 60 minutes. Let's do 36 minutes. But let's say you don't have homework, right? Or you got your homework done and then maybe like spend 30 minutes or spend 15 minutes reviewing your notes or doing that. Like, and again, it depends. Like, are you looking for an A or are you looking to pass? Right. So, I mean, it's kind of a hard question to really, gauge, but I think um, if you can try to be consistent and do it more often, then that's going to put you in a better position than, try like, there's no magic number. Like it's such a variable number that I can give, but I think just the main thing is being consistent and, and trying to do it more often than not. I have been teaching for 14 years, and then this is my second year teaching online. So 16 total, I guess I'll say. You're very welcome, Spider-Man. Well, not a square number. Well, then you're gonna have to use square roots, right? So like, let's say you had, that's a good question. Like, so let's say you had, well, I don't know why I put this in, but let's say you had like, I like that question. Let's say you had like n squared minus 5, right? So again, like difference of two squares, this is a squared minus b squared, right? So a squared equals 5 squared and b squared equals 5. So you need to figure out what a and b is, right? Because this can factor it into a minus b times a plus b. So this would be a minus b times an a plus b, right? So then here, so a is going to equal to, oops, I'm sorry, that's a b squared. No, that's an n squared. I'm losing my mind. Okay, so a is going to equal to plus or minus n, right? But again, doesn't really matter because we're just going to be using the a minus b times n minus b. Actually, we're not going to use plus or minus. We're just going to do a is equal to n. And then here, we're going to do b. If once you take the square root of that, b, what am I doing? B is equal to 5. Jeez, I'm like confusing myself. B squared is equal, so b is going to equal to square root of 5. So this factored form would be n minus square root of 5 times a n plus the square root of 5. So there you go for that. You are very welcome, Rufino. Hey, Miss McLaughlin, I understand the material for math. Yes, for tests, and I make silly mistakes, which ruin my whole answer. Yep. And I don't know what to do at having tips. Yeah, I mean, I try to find time to go back and check your answers. And, I used to always, a couple things I used to always do, like whenever I had fractions, I would always anytime I had like a problem that I knew that like a lot of times I'd make a mistake on, I'd like star it. So therefore I could just go back and like visually check my work. Right. Or, and I think just sometimes like, yeah, you got to be careful, and like hopefully you can just spend some extra time going back over your work, knowing where you make the mistakes and how often you make the mistakes. Don't just always jump into a question because it looks like it's the correct answer. Like make sure you go through your work or and make sure you go through your work and do your work to like check things. But I think just really having time to know when and where you make mistakes and then looking out for that when you're taking a test, so you can make sure you go back and check your work. Here's going. I've got my first calculus midterm on Tuesday. Awesome. Kind of nervous. I've been going through some archetype midterms. More pressure would have been helpful, but yes, yeah, that's all. I mean, you just got to keep on going through it. Like that's perfect. Keep on doing that. That is absolutely exactly what I'd want you to be doing is going back over all those midterms. Good for you. And again, nerves are going to come into play. That's just part of the game. But definitely. But definitely keep on practicing that, and that's going to put you in the best position. I have like hundreds of them. So just go and take a look at my channel and you should find them. X-intercept, just set y equals 0, and then you could solve by factoring, typically. Or there's a couple of different ways, but factoring probably be your easiest. Well, awesome. So happy to help you out. All right. So here's one question that I did get that I did want to cover with you guys. So because this was the only other math question, but again, if you guys do have other math questions, I'm probably not going to get to them tonight. But if you do have math questions, then you guys can just go to brianmcclogan.com/Q&A. All right. So let me just go and, no, not that one. Let's go back and let's go and cover this math question. So, because I think this is a good one. So it says, if the slope of the line ax plus by equals 10 is 3/5 and the y-intercept is -1, what is a plus b? All right. So if I have the equation, ax plus by is equal to 10. Okay. Now, this is the standard form, ax plus by is equal to c. This is standard form of a line. Okay. And what I want you guys to understand here is we're to rewrite this in slope intercept form. What I do is I subtract ax on both sides, and I have by is equal to a negative ax plus c, and then I divide by b, right? So you could say y is equal to a negative ab x plus c over b. Okay, so that is going to be your that's your slope-intercept form. The important thing I want you to understand is m is equal to a negative a over b. Okay, so here's your standard form, right? And they're saying what the slope is. So they're saying my 3/5. So I'm saying my slope is going to be a 3/5. So really what we have here is my slope here that they were giving, m is equal to a 3/5. Well, if 3/5 is going to be a negative a over b, now I can kind of write this in there. I can say, all right, well now a is going to equal a negative 3 and b is going to equal a 5, right? So now I've already figured out my a and my b, so I can say a negative 3x plus a 5y. Oh, no. Hold on. Actually, we don't know which one is going to be a negative, actually. Crap, so I didn't think about that one. What is my a plus b? So if my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Okay, so, all right, so a, we actually don't know. All right, so it's going to be one of those two. And then the other one is say the y-intercept is negative 1. So remember, y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, right? Okay, so x equal to 0. So I could say, and that's equal to negative 1. So y is equal to negative 1. All right, so let's go ahead and figure this out. Which one is it? Is it negative 3, right? Is it negative 3 over 5, or is it 3 over negative 5? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug 0 in for x. So a times 0 plus a b times negative 1 is equal to 10, right? Okay, so a is equal to 0. So this is negative b is equal to a 10. That's not working out. So b is equal to, okay, so divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. B is equal to a negative 10, okay? And you might be saying, well, what about if it was a 3/5? Well, yeah, remember that's the ratio though. So if B is equal to a negative 10, that means A is going to equal to a positive 6, right? Because wouldn't 6 over negative 10 give you a ratio of 3/5, right? That's what we're looking for. I'm sorry, this is a negative 6 over 3. So A is going to equal, hold on a second. A has to be equal to a, yeah, because it has to be a 3/5. Yeah, so one of those is going to be negative. Do I have that right? So A would be equal to a, yeah, it has to be at 3/5. I believe I'm getting this one right. I don't know. I thought I did this wrong correctly. But that's going to, yeah, M has to be, yeah. So that's going to be negative 6, right? And again, if you reduce this, that'd be worked out. So therefore, negative 6 plus a negative 10 is equal to a negative 16. Whew, all right. Just practice them. Practice many of them. Hey, Brian, I have an algebra exam tomorrow. Awesome. And I don't get it. I've gotten help from a tutor, but I haven't really helped me. My exam is graphing slope and figuring out how to define slope from an equation. I mean, I don't know what else I can help you, with this. I mean, just remember that rise over run, from there. And I mean, there's a lot with slope, like writing the equation and all that kind of stuff. So I would just kind of go back over through your notes. Like, don't try to feel like you need to understand everything for exam. Like, review your notes, review, what you've studied, and do the best you can, But if you have a specific question, always feel free to, reach out. I go live each and every Sunday night, guys, at 9 p.m. So you guys can always ask questions throughout the rest of the year. I'm happy to be here for you guys and answer those questions. But again, like when it's the night before a test, whatever else, like study what you can study, guys. Try to relax. Don't try to let stress take over. There's a lot that that can come out, but you don't want to have stress and anxiety like building up. So I wish you guys all the best. Hope you guys have a great week. I am not good at physics, so I don't need to submit questions in for there. But hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.